So we just got out of seeing Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and holy crap, what a ride. But we're not gonna give you the review right here. Give us just a second, let us hop into the car, and then we got some things to talk about.
A few minutes later.
All right, so we just got out of seeing Across the Spider-Verse not 5 minutes ago, and you're probably wondering why this entire area looks different than my normal review. The answer to that is, this is a car. Wow. So my wife and I are actually going to be going on vacation starting this weekend, and needless to say, we won't have access to my studio, all of my microphones, all that. So today we are armed with nothing but my iPhone and a dream. So needless to say, this is going to have a lot less cuts, not a lot of graphics. In fact, hardly at all if I'm going to even have time to put this up before we leave. Let's go ahead and dive right into this movie. We're going to try and stay away from spoilers just because we know the movie just came out. We may cover a little bit of it at the end, but we'll be sure to let you know in case we decide to talk about some things that may ruin your experience. But don't worry, you can rock with us pretty much the whole way through, and we'll do everything we can not to give too much away. So first off, you want to just start and just tell me some of the things that really stuck out to you about this movie?
I would say definitely the animation. Like, again, with the first movie, it was so comic booky. Mm-hmm. And when we were watching that first opening scene, it felt different. It was more artsy and creative and way beyond just a comic book movie animation. Which I thought was very neat.
Or it's kind of like the first movie, like you said, felt like a comic book movie. Mm-hmm. This one felt like a blank canvas.
Yes.
And there were so many different creative visual styles. Mm-hmm. One of the things I think about is, it's not a spoiler to say early on, Gwen does fight a specific villain, but not a villain from her Earth. And it's the Vulture from a totally different Earth. And he is basically from the, I've said that, like,
Renaissance.
From the Renaissance era. I keep forgetting that. But he pops and stands out so much compared to everybody else in that Earth. And it felt really unique and something we had not seen before.
Because I think at one point, doesn't she say he's made of paper or something like that?
Yeah.
Because he's like this weathered brown, like, I want to say like papyrus paper or something, but I think they had better paper than that back then. But it was like just brown paper, like origami. I don't know.
Yeah, who would have thought that in a Spider-Man movie you'd see origami? You know, one of the things that really stuck out to me is that right when you started to get familiar with a specific world, like let's say you got transported to Spider-Man India's world, right when you started to get comfortable in there, you got transported right to another place where there was a whole different art style. But to dive more into the animation, it's really hard to really pinpoint a specific thing. I think the problem with modern day movies is that they all start to feel the same. Even if you have one or two decent movies, they all kind of have the same structure. They follow similar storylines. And this was the first time in a while where I walked into a movie wondering, how did they do that? You know, like usually when you watch a movie, you can tell, oh, okay, this is a jump cut here. You know, they obviously had to shoot this from a different angle because of either budget purposes or, you know, oh, that scene really has shoddy CGI. But with this movie specifically, there was no part of it that made me think, wow, that kind of sucked. Because every single shot, every single fight scene, every single world that we visited felt very carefully storyboarded by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who were the directors of the movie. And no shot felt out of place. No color felt misplaced. The script, the storylines, the characters, the costumes, none of it felt like it didn't belong. And when you can truly feel the passion that a director has for telling a story, it just makes everything feel so much better.
And I don't think I mentioned this, but if I had one complaint about the whole movie, it would be if you have sensory issues or like, I don't know, like seizure type,
like epilepsy,
whatever. Yeah. There's a lot of flashing colors and there's a lot of just like where the screen moves and twists.
It's like a kaleidoscope.
Yeah, and I get dizzy. I had to look away once or twice just because it was so visually just jarring.
Yeah.
But for probably the majority of people will just find it entertaining, which I did. But if you do, just know that that might be something that could affect your viewing of it. But again, it was more entertaining than anything else.
The other thing I really wanted to talk about is the story. I felt like the story itself is really backbone that supports the entire movie, because focusing on Miles Morales and his family and making that the emotional heartbeat really benefited this movie a lot. If you've noticed in Into the Spider-Verse, which is the first movie, it's all about Miles and the relationship between him and his dad. His mom kind of has a couple of lines here and there, but is more so focusing on the connection between Jefferson, and in the comics and the games, it's Jefferson Davis, but in this one they called him Jeff Morales. But regardless, it's the relationship between Miles and his father. I really felt like in Across the Spider-Verse, it felt more of between Miles and his mother. I don't know if you noticed that as well.
Well, there was also, at the beginning, a lot of it was Gwen and her dad, too. So that was something we didn't really get to see. And I was actually kind of shocked that it was more so centered on her in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I did think it was going to be more Miles-centric, you know? But the dynamic he has with his mom is very sweet. So much so that I wanted to cry during one of the scenes.
Blame it on the pregnancy hormones.
It got me right here in the mama feels.
Well, I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I feel like we don't see a lot of strong family dynamics in movies anymore. That's just the way I see it. Too many times do we see, children who have estranged parents, who have no parents, who are orphans, who, have a terrible
Parents
relationship.
are passive, or who are too, what's that word? They're
aggressive?
Like totalitarian. You know what I'm trying to say? They're too strict,
Yeah.
But like when she's literally, one of the lines is like, you're grounded basically, but I love you. Like there's that balance of being a loving parent while also being a stable one.
Exactly.
And that was refreshing.
You rarely see it anymore, where there is a father and mother who very much have been proven to love each other, and they also love their child. It's such a simple concept, but it's refreshing to be able to see Miles love his parents, and none of them are perfect. They all make decisions that hurt the other people around them, but the one thing that never changes is the fact that they want what's best for each other. With that being said, the Spider People. Holy cow, the Spider People. If you have watched or partaken in any form of Spider-Man media over the last 20 years, maybe even more, you're gonna find some Spider-Man in this Spider-Verse that you're like, holy crap, I remember that guy. It's not really a spoiler to say because they were in the trailers, but there are things like Spectacular Spider-Man from, you gonna sneeze? I'm just gonna keep talking. If you sneeze, you sneeze.
Do.
Spectacular Spider-Man from the Spectacular Spider-Man TV show. They had Spider-Man PS4, which is a game that I absolutely adore. And there it is. Bless you. But I mean, there's Bombastic Bagman from the Fantastic Four. There's the Spider-Man that was like super armored from the 90s. There's a Spider Horse. There's a Spider Cat. You think of it, and it's probably there. I was really excited to see that. Wow, Andy Samberg. Why am I?
You sound like me.
I lost my brain in that, in the moment. But Andy Samberg plays Ben Reilly, which was really cool to see, especially when they kept true to his animation style. That was the other thing, is they still show respect to all of these characters while they're all together. They still feel unique and they stand out. Spider-Punk had his little cardboard design where every time he moved, it looked like you moved a piece of cardboard in stop motion. It was awesome. That's all I could really say about that.
It was almost overwhelming. I felt like there were so many that I was just like...
Well, the cool part about that is that it gives Across the Spider-Verse more there goes the speech impediment. It gives Across the Spider-Verse more rewatchability because it makes you want to go back and rewatch it to try to pick out some of the things you may have missed the first time.
Oh, because you're definitely going to miss things.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so fast. It's so jam-packed with good stuff.
And the thing is that even though it goes by super fast, it never feels like it's glossing over some things. Like the character moments between Gwen and Miles are very touching and heartfelt because they choose to sit with them for a scene and let them have this touching moment of just getting caught up with each other and, showing that the other person still has feelings for the other person. And by kind of marinating and letting these characters rediscover their emotions and feelings for each other, whether it's as a friend or as a potential love interest, I think that really did the movie justice. I'm trying to think of where else I could go without spoiling.
I know, I'm afraid to say anything else.
I will say, there are going to be some very shocking twists along the way, without spoiling anything, that you will not see coming. And for the sake of not ruining anything that I already haven't ruined, it goes without saying, be prepared, because there are going to be some twists and turns that even I didn't see coming. I really tried to stay away from the spoilers on Twitter, because if there's a movie I'm really excited about going into, I don't want it ruined for me. And it definitely paid off for me, which is why I don't want to ruin y'all's experience. But be prepared. It's about 2.5 hours, I think. And there's nothing else I could really say. Do you think, in your opinion, that this is better than the first movie? While you're thinking about that, I actually think I still like the first movie better. However, that does not discount or take away from anything in this movie. It makes me happy that we can have two great animated Spider-Man movies. Even though I liked one more than the other, it doesn't change the fact that the second one is still awesome.
I have to agree, though. Like, there's something about the original.
Yeah.
Because, like, the soundtrack is fire. The animation is just classic. The characters are cool. Like, I love the first one. But
it doesn't discredit the second
one.
one.
Is fabulous. And it has even better music. And, like, you know, but I think the first one mainly, like, is more tailored to my particular...
The first one feels more like a complete story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There is a definitive 3-act structure. There is Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, where it felt like introducing the characters, having the conflict, and then having a sense of finality at the end.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, for a casual viewing experience, it holds up more. However, Across the Spider-Verse is also trying to build up towards its sequel, because Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 2 comes out next year. And so it gives off kind of a Empire Strikes Back vibe, where it ends on a more somber note with a little bit of an upbeat vibe to get you excited about the next movie, but it doesn't feel complete. It makes you walking out of the theater feeling like there's more to be told, especially because we're building towards something specific. And while that's a great feeling, it's almost like Avengers Infinity War, where you walked into the movie, it didn't quite end the way you thought it would, but it's still teeing up something that's coming in the future, so you can't necessarily have that sense of completion until you've watched the next movie.
I had no idea that this was a part 1 of a part 2. I don't know how I missed that, so that was shocking for me. It was so abrupt, but in some ways I kind of liked that I didn't know that, because I was on the edge of my seat thinking, okay, we're coming to the conclusion. But no, we're not. I'm
trying to think of what else I could say that potentially wouldn't be spoiler based. So we're gonna wrap up this part of the discussion by saying, go see the movie. What are we gonna say? Like, we got 4 hands, we doing 4 thumbs up out of 4? 4 thumbs up out of 4. That being said, we are gonna talk about spoilers for just a second. So if you've made it this far and you don't wanna get spoiled, bye. Bye. See you next time. Are they gone? I think they're gone. All right, so now we're gonna talk a little bit about spoilers. So the ending.
Donald Glover.
We're gonna talk about Donald Glover?
Yes, that was earlier.
Donald Glover cameos in this movie as the Prowler, which is awesome because in the MCU, he technically does play Aaron. And he mentions that he has a nephew in the neighborhood. So that canonizes him as Aaron Davis in the MCU. So seeing Donald Glover in the Prowler costume in this movie, awesome. It was so cool.
And when they say that they literally touch on every Spider-Man in every universe, the fact that they not only take comic book Spider-Man in all different forms, and then they take live action Spider-Man.
Like Andrew Garfield.
Like,
now, granted, they're not in the... Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are not in the movie as actual, characters in the scene. It's more so of showing flashbacks to when Uncle Ben died or when Captain Stacy died. So it's more so just showing clips from their movies.
But it's acknowledging their existence in the whole Spider-Man, universe in a way.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I just thought it was weird because it's again live action and comic book. It's cool.
It's
cool.
So
I wasn't expecting that.
The only thing is, a lot of people were asking about Tom Holland's Spider-Man and whether or not he gets a cameo. The only thing he gets, I think, is a brief reference at the beginning where Spider-Man 2099 is talking about Doctor Strange and the kid from Earth 1999 or whatever it was. That's the only reference we get to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So as of now, no MCU Spider-Man. But needless to say, they make up for it in more ways than one with all of the different cameos that we got. I'm not even going to try. It's not even a spoiler to try to go through all the other cameos because I can't even recall all the ones I saw.
Tobey Maguire was in there for a very short time.
Very short time, but again, more of a flashback, not as an actual...
but he was there.
Exactly. But other than that, there's really not much else I want to talk about, spoiler-wise, other than the ending. So this 100% ends on a cliffhanger. No two ways about it. There is no sense of resolution. It's more so Gwen rallying all of the OG characters from Into the Spider-Verse, along with the new characters we meet along the way in this movie, to face off against Miguel O'Hara, the Spider-Man 2099, and his posse as they're all trying to track down Miles, who found out that he got transported to the wrong universe at the end and is currently face-to-face with his own self, who became the Prowler in that universe.
Because that was that universe's spider was the one that bit him in his universe.
What a perfect example of tying in the previous movie. I love continuity like that, where it takes, again, Guardians 3, perfect example. Guardians 3 made the first two Guardians so much better because of the interconnectivity. And with Across the Spider-Verse, it had that interconnectivity that makes you go back and want to watch Into the Spider-Verse and go, oh my gosh, that's what changed everything.
Well, even just taking like the whole villain, the Spot guy.
Yeah, Spot.
He's literally the scientist that Miles threw the bagel at.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That
yes.
Was so
what the heck?
like,
I loved it.
It was creative and just unique. Like,
yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that guy.
And the best kind of villains are the ones who are known in the comics as being a joke. And I remember when Hannah and I were talking about the villain before we went into it, Hannah didn't know anything about Spot. To her, it seemed like a really stupid villain. And you're right. Spot is a stupid villain and a stupid concept. However, the way they masterfully take this character who was a joke and turn him into a bone-chilling villain when given the right opportunity, sign me all the way up.
I absolutely love those types of villains because they almost lure you in with like a sense
like
of
goofy,
security.
Yeah.
Because he's lanky.
Well, they call him the villain of the week.
Awkward looking, and he's like not serious. But then towards the end, as you kind of watch him, he just becomes
he grows in power.
Like you said, bone chilling.
Yeah.
And that's what's so, because again, he lures you in with his humor and his, awkwardness. And
his
then
power
all of a
set.
sudden it's like, boom, he's terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't quite know what they're going to be doing in part 2 to defeat him, but needless to say, I'm really excited. Hats off to everybody involved with the creation of this villain, because I can't wait to see what's in store. There's so much more we haven't covered, but you're just going to have to find that out for yourself. If you're a fan of Spider-Man in general, forget about the fact that this is an animated movie. This is going to be for all fans of Spider-Man. Make sure you've seen Into the Spider-Verse first, but once you've got that out of the way, I guarantee you are going to find something to love about this movie. But with all that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to y'all. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know where you would rank this movie when it comes to all of the previous Spider-Man movies that have come before it. I'm really looking forward to hearing your guys' opinions. But also let me know if you think that this is something you might want to see more of in the future, where it's just me and my wife just shooting the breeze right after a movie, just having a car conversation. And who knows, we might try to do more of this in the future. But with all that out of the way, I want to thank you guys so much for watching.
And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.